and welcome to today's discussion in our new series, Recover Your Strategy. Today's topic, using zero-based planning principles to bring your plan out of quarantine. My name is Nellie Miller, and I'm the Director of Marketing at MPOWR Envision. Thanks for being with us today. I have a few housekeeping logistics to share here up front. You're all on mute, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to hear from you. Please type your questions and comments in the chat box in the right-hand panel on your screen. We would love to hear your questions and comments throughout our discussion, and we'll share those at the end. You will receive a recording after today's presentation, so you can review it later and share it with colleagues that may not have been able to join us today. We also have some future conversations in this series, and I'll share more about that in just a bit. So we're going to talk about the new stage that we're all working towards in our professional worlds as we start the first phases of re-entry from the pandemic, and that stage is recovery. What if you had what you thought was a good strategy? A strategy that you had planned on pursuing before this pandemic hit, a strategy planned out and well coordinated, a strategy for which you were really prepared. And now what was once true has completely changed, just like we see with the monarch butterflies. So how do you manage this change? What new places should you explore? What kind of vision should you have now? And what's the process you can use to kick off this conversation? There are many different methods to re-examine both your new landscape and potential new goals. Zero-based planning principles is the tool we want to explore in our conversation today. It's been around for a while, but doesn't really get used as much as some other processes because most organizations aren't looking for drastic shifts in their direction. And while you might not decide to make a drastic shift right now, zero-based planning allows you the freedom if you decide to make big changes. So to kick off our conversation, I have joining me, as you can see, some wonderful colleagues. The first is Jeff Fahrenwald, VP of Strategy Development and Execution at SupplyCorps, our parent company. Hi, Jeff.
Hi, Nellie. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Wonderful. And also joining us is Andrea Gibbs, our Senior Strategy Executive at MPOWR. Hi, Andrea.
Hi, Nellie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. It's a good day. I wish the sun were out. Looks like it's going to be a bit of rain, but all in all, it's a good day.
We'll take it. So I'm so glad we're all here together for another great conversation about strategy. You see me on the slide as well, and Brittany Ray, our producer, who's behind the scenes making sure everything is working seamlessly. So to kick us off and get this conversation started, Jeff, I'll start with you. Give us a general overview of zero-based planning principles and how does it work?
Sure. It's really related to another concept which people may have heard about before, which is zero-based budgeting. The philosophy behind these concepts is you start from scratch instead of starting from where you left off. So again, in a budgeting example, many times your budgeting process begins with, this is what you got last year, what do you need now this year? As opposed to saying, tell us what you need money for and justify every dollar. The planning works the same way in that instead of saying, this is where our vision was, this is the plan we've had at this point, how do we tweak it and make it different? You go back and you say, let's go back and revisit our mission and vision, especially our vision. And in today's world, with what we know now, fundamentally, what sort of changes would we be making to where we're going and what we want to be able to become? So we want to be able to set our strategy and then develop a structure around what will help us best meet that new vision.
Jeff, I think it's great you mentioned vision statements. So Andrea, I'd love to turn to you and talk more about what does that look like? Some organizations have vision statements, some don't. You know, where do you begin if you don't have a vision statement?
Well, I think the first thing, Nellie, is to decide, a vision statement is basically as simple as where do we see ourselves in the future? And the future can be any timeline that you describe. It could be 6 months, it could be 2 years, it could be next quarter. But you want to ask yourselves, where do do we want to be in the future so that we can begin to enact the initiatives that we need to in order to get to that future. But there are a variety of different ways to come up with a vision statement. We've got some helpful templates on our website at MPOWR.com. You answer a series of questions, and that helps you think through your vision. There's also some examples of visions. So there's a variety of different ways you can get at it, but basically your end goal is to get to what does our future look like and when do we want to make that happen?
I know that template has helped a lot of customers, and those questions are really crucial. So I think it's great that we have that as a resource. So thanks for sharing that. Jeff, if I turn back to you, when you think about starting zero-based planning, what's the first thing that you want to do?
Well, first thing you want to do is assemble a team because you don't want to be doing this in a vacuum on your own. And then what you want to do is you want to go and look at your mission really quickly. And then, as Andrea has been talking about, either through some templates or other sorts of things, you want to really be able to look at your vision. And you want to be able to say, what do we want to be doing right now? Are we headed in the right direction? And then also ask yourself, are we working on the right things in the right priority? And then also, as it says, you want to be able to think about, do we have our people, are they trained right? Do they have the right sort of skills to be able to help us meet where we have to go?
So Jeff, you just mentioned people, and Andrea, I assume, this is an inclusive activity, this process. So who really needs to be included?
Well, I think that's a good way to put it, Nellie. If you're re-examining your direction and your plan, if you don't get your organization involved, you'll be headed in one direction, and they might be still headed in the same direction that you were going in the first place. So I think the first thing to do is assess the organization, see where they are, see how they see the organization, see where they see the strengths are, where are the weaknesses, how's our communication, how does our communication work, what's our culture like. Ask them questions that give you a sense for where they are so that you know what kind of journey you have to make with them in order to get to a new place, a new vision, a new thought for your future. So I think assessments up front are really good. They're super easy. I mean, we've got all kinds of tools like SurveyMonkey. Before, it used to be very expensive to do things like assessments and surveys, and now it's super, super quick. And the information you get is really, really invaluable. And it allows you to bring them along through this process when you zero out your planning and then look to the future. It allows you to be able to say, here's where my people are now, so here's the journey I have to help them make. It's the only way that you can change the culture to be able to adapt to your new vision.
I like how you refer to it as a journey, because sometimes journeys don't always end. You're always kind of moving forward, but I think that's a great reference point for sure.
Absolutely.
When we think, obviously the process has zero in it, so zero-based planning. How do you get to that zero point, Andrea? How do you set to zero?
Well, I think the first thing you've got to do before you jump ahead into here's our brand new future, you do have to make sure that, given the assessments and understanding the culture and understanding the people and understanding the communication processes, you do have to say, does our vision, the one that we've just decided we're going to change completely, does our vision include the core people that we have and our core competencies? In other words, you can't go chasing after a vision if you don't have the talent and the skill set within your organization to be able to achieve that vision. And there are a variety of different examples of this. I know Jeff has had some experiences with this, and so have I, but you've got to be able to look at your core people and your core competencies and say, yes, we have the skills, the management, the culture, the leadership to be able to make this shift to our new vision.
Yeah, so you mentioned examples, so I'm going to take your segue here and okay, offer both you and Jeff. Jeff, we'll start with you. What are some good examples that you have seen companies and people do this type of process, and how has it worked for them?
Sure, I've got a couple examples that I think will help. One is a smaller organization, a small retail bakery here in the Rockford area named Crust and Crumbles. And their business has basically been a make-to-order business. All right, they're a retail bakery. People come in, pick up stuff, and they go. And all of a sudden now the pandemic hits and they're literally closed down. And so now they got to rethink what they do. And so what they did is go back and look, and first thing they looked at where was one of the things that they really were strong in. They had a strong Instagram following, and they were able to rethink and reimagine their business as a made-to-order and made-to-pick-up business. And they've had to retrain some of their staff and to do more bakery production. They've had to be able to experiment with new items, because if people are going to come and pick stuff up, there has to be, something new for them to come in to do that. And so they've reinvented the business. They'd only have appointments, and people would come in a certain point of times and be able to pick up things that they ordered ahead of time. And so they really turned themselves into a make-to-order business, where all of a sudden they have no inventory and no loss. Now what they're trying to do one more time is rethink, how do they take the retail business that they had, how do they take this new make-to-order business, and how can they put those together? And how do they have the right people and the right culture to be able to do both those things so that they can be successful in the long run? And they're working through that process right now, but I'm confident they're going to be successful. The second business is a company called Hydrogen Systems. And for years, they've been in the business of selling hydrogen generation equipment, mostly to power plants. Now, because of global warming, because of some of the things going on with the pandemic and all, that is probably not the business that they want to be in. And so what they've looked at is say, where is this industry going? And they've looked at their talent and their people, and they want to be a provider and producer of green hydrogen to markets around the world. And so they're taking the expertise they had in hydrogen generation and now looking at where the markets are going and trying to produce that hydrogen to sell into markets around the world.
Wow, so interesting. Thank you for those examples, Jeff.
Sure.
Andrea, what about you? What's an example that you can share?
Well, the one I'm thinking of is one of our customers, our Envision customers, called Event Collective. And Event Collective originally started as an organization that pulled together a variety of different talents and businesses under the event umbrella. So within their organization, they had photographers, florists, event planners, caterers, all kinds of different things that, all kinds of different functions and all kinds of different people that together were able to put together an event, a corporate event, a wedding, an anniversary party, a graduation, whatever it was that people were looking to have an event for, they were able to do it. Locations, all kinds of different things that they could provide. Obviously, once the pandemic hit, any business with the word event in it had to really step back and say, okay, we really need to do some zero-based planning. And so what they did was they looked at what their core people were. Their core people were people that were logistics managers and people that knew how to chefs and people that understood how to put something together from a management perspective, when to time what things were happening. They took those core people and they reimagined them in new jobs. So some of the people that were in charge of being able to, for example, set up an event they now made them drivers. And obviously the people that were cooking, those were the people that went into takeout catering mode. So then they were able to take their chefs that were cooking, have people order the food online, deliver it to their door. They would get in raw materials, obviously, for their recipes and the things that they were preparing. And they thought, well, what if people don't necessarily want a cooked meal? They want raw materials. They want to be able to cook at home. So they also turned their organization into a kind of an online grocer. And so they shifted and pivoted pretty quickly. Coffee was another one that they would deliver, pizza. They aligned their core competencies and their core people to be able to make this new shift in their business happen. And long term, their vision of being able to provide people with a good experience was still held true. So they were still holding true not only to their new direction, but also their mission.
I know we enjoy working with them so much, and it's been really fascinating to see their journey, right? So that's really cool. Thank you, Andrea and Jeff, for those examples. It's obvious that these different companies and different industries have all been really served well with this process, and they it's returning to their vision and core competencies, and then understanding how they can move forward. So thank you for that. I will now turn it over to Brittany to see if we have any questions from our audience for Jeff and Andrea.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a question here, and I will shoot this over to Andrea. So Andrea, if you're ever setting your vision, what kind of questions do you need to consider?
Can you repeat? I'm sorry, Brittany, can you repeat that for me, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're resetting your vision, what kind of questions do you need to consider?
I think there are a variety of different things you want to consider. You want to be able to look at your mission and ask yourselves, is this who we are, and is this who we want to be going forward? Then, as we talked about, you have to assess your talent and your organizational capability and say, can the people that we have and the capability we have within the organization, can they meet that new vision? Okay. And then you take a look at your culture and you say, do we have the ability to follow through to that modified vision, keeping true, obviously, to our mission? And can you support the model? Can you support it not only in the short term, but as Jeff said, with Crust and Crumbles, as we come out of this situation, is it something that would be good to support in the long term? Will this add to our business model? Will this add to our success? Will this add to our ability to serve our customers?
Thank you so much for that. I'll pick on Jeff for the next question here. Doesn't zero-based planning create fear in people? How do you overcome that fear?
Well, it really can create fear in people. And I think going back to what Andrea said about culture, if you already have a culture of fear in your organization, this may not be the right thing to do. But if you've got a culture where people understand that you can take some risks, that you can do some things differently, this could be something that is just a shot in the arm for the entire company. All of a sudden, you may have people who they were in a job that, was okay for them, but not that special, and they're reinvented like some of the people in the event collective. And those people turn from caterpillars into butterflies. You may find all sorts of new superstars. You may also look and see that some of the resources you had were underutilized, and now you can utilize them fully for some of the things you're doing. Going back to the crust and crumble model, they really weren't fully utilizing their kitchen. Now they really are fully utilizing their entire bakery to be able to bake and be able to meet the demands of made to order. And so it helps in all sorts of ways. So yes, it can be fearful at first, but it can also be invigorating once you really get into the process, and it can really create something much better for your organization than you've done in the past.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Another thing, I know MPOWR, everyone here is from the Midwest. Do you put ketchup on your hot dogs?
No,
never.
Heavens, no.
No. Sport peppers, yes, but never ketchup on a hot dog.
Both of us are Chicagoans. You wouldn't catch us dead in either Wrigley Field or the Cell with a ketchup on our hot dogs.
Absolutely.
Well, there may be a debate later with some other folks on that. Leave it there for now.
Well, and whether or not people are in the ballparks this year, that would also be up for debate as well.
But we can still enjoy hot dogs, so we will do that this summer.
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you, Brittany, so much. So our panel participants today are all contributors to our software division, MPOWR. We make a software platform called MPOWR Envision that helps people plan for their futures. If you work for a company, a department, an organization that needs to execute future plans and stay focused on the initiatives that will help you achieve your vision, MPOWR Envision is the software tool to help you and your team see results happen. And in an effort right now to help as many organizations recover as quickly as possible, we're offering our software free to new customers for the first 30 days. Use it to plan your reentry, your recovery, use it to help shift or pivot your strategy like you heard today, Event Collective, our customer does. And use it for zero-based planning. We had a great conversation today about what things to think about, and our tool can certainly help you with that as you progress on your own journey. And if you need additional assistance in setting your strategy, take advantage of our limited time offer right now, which includes a 40% discount off our fast strategy consulting. which is 3 goals in 3 months. Fast strategy is a short, intense look at how to use laser focus to make some realistic goals happen in a single quarter. And finally, we have some great resources on our website. Andrea, thank you for that information before. You had shared about our vision template. We have other templates as well. So whether you're starting to create a vision statement or even a mission statement or your values, we have some templates on our website at MPOWR, MPOWR.com. So I invite you to take a look at those. And we also have some great blogs that we've been writing. Both Jeff and Andrea have contributed to our blogs. And Andrea has written one just about today's topic. So you can go to our website to see that as well. You heard me say this is a series, so thank you for joining us today in our first session. The Recover Your Strategy series continues in 2 weeks on June 23rd with 3 planning goals in 3 months. That's a part of our fast strategy consulting that I just referred to. And we'll take a little deeper dive and share a little bit more about what to expect. But it certainly makes sense to start thinking about zero-based planning right after you get off this discussion today. And then we can take you to the next stage in 3 goals in 3 months as you look at the next quarter and the goals that you want to achieve. So thank you for joining us. I want to thank Andrea and Jeff and Brittany. Thank you for all being here today.
It was
You're
fun.
welcome. Yeah, it was great. Thank you.
And now I want a hot dog, right? We've been talking about hot dogs. So
Yeah, right, exactly.
So I want to thank our audience for your questions and your contributions. Have a good rest of your day. Stay healthy and positive, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
You
Bye.
too. Bye, Nellie.
Bye.